Hello everyone! Today I'm building a maple and red oak American flag for a Navy buddy. Since he did the hard part for me and sent me the dimensions he wanted, I think he used the usflag.org website. I'll link it down in the bottom. I drew this out in SketchUp and tried to do some unique cutouts for the ribbons and medals that he might put in later. His idea for the project is a two-tone wood flag with a section cut out so he can lay out his military medals and memorabilia. We talked over my SketchUp drawing and decided on making a complete flag first and then cutting out the space later on. The wood he chose was a really clear maple for the white part and a really nice red oak for the red part. After cutting the boards to 43 inches long for the longer ones and 25 3/4 for the smaller ones, I moved on to the table saw and ripped them all to 1 3/4 inches. That bottom piece of red oak really warped after I cut it. I'm gonna have to do something about that. Since this is going to be mounted on a wall, I think, I wanted to give the back a uniform mounting surface. The boards will be glued to each other and then to this 1/8 inch plywood sheet. Here I'm using a razor blade and a straight edge. It's just an offcut of maple. I went a little heavy on the dimensions here just so I would have extra. I think I went 44 and 25 on this one. A couple of cuts with a razor blade and I just bent it over itself and it popped right off. Like I had mentioned earlier, there's a little bit of a bow in some of these pieces. So I'm just running the plane over it a couple times just so I can close up that gap. With that out of the way, I'm moving on to gluing up my first piece. With the clamps, I'm going to put a fair bit of pressure on these, so there's going to be a bit of squeeze out. Hopefully not too much. Right about here is where I noticed that bow coming back to haunt me, so I'm breaking out some other pieces and creating cawls to straighten out the ends. Real rough cleanup of that glue with a chisel. Not too bad looking so far. Now for the longer pieces and the bigger bow. As you can see here, that bow did show up again and I had to break out every single clamp I owned. I think I need more clamps. And here's my newest addition to my shop. This is a Delta 31 250 drum sander. A couple of passes with 220 grit on there really lightly. Took off all the glue and evened up any little lines that I might have had on it. I made a little roll around cart for this guy after I cleaned it. There was no way I was going to be able to drag this thing in and out of my garage. It weighs a ton. With all the options, I had to mount the long piece and the short piece together. Decided to go with dowels. I had a bunch of them laying around. Why not? A friend of mine gave me this really cool doweling jig. Haven't used it in a while. Thought it made sense. Because this is 1/2 inch thick stock, I went with 1/4 inch dowels. I think that'll look pretty good. Little bit of glue, some dowels, and a lot of clamping pressure, and we can bring these two pieces together. I did actually tighten that down. I don't know what happened with my camera there. When my buddy and I were planning this flag out, we kind of talked about what kind of finish he wanted on this. He said he wanted a burned wood finish for the red oak. I had never done anything like that before, but hey, let's go for it. I tried to start in a corner and see what was going to happen, but I really quickly found out that if I held it in one spot too close, wood, it burns. So I just rapidly moved it back and forth, and as I heated up the wood, I could feel that the red oak was taking the burning a lot quicker than the maple. So I just kind of concentrated on that and maybe tried to get the maple a little bit of color to it. It didn't really want to do it, so I just focused on the red oak more. The more I did this, the more I got the hang of it, and I just followed the grain pattern of the red oak. I'm trying to hold the torch at a consistent distance. If I hold it too close, it'll burn too quick. If I don't hold it close enough, it doesn't heat up enough, even though the whole piece is really, really warm right now. After burning the wood, I let it cool for about a day, and then moved on to gluing the 1/8 inch plywood to the back. Looks like I'm going to have to buy more glue. I really wanted to make sure there was even coverage of the glue on there, not only on the stripes of wood, but also on the plywood union. I clamped that up and let it sit for the rest of that evening. Since that red oak burned really, really well, I decided to wrap the entire flag with that red oak. Maybe take the torch to it a little bit later and get it a little bit darker. I didn't want to get too crazy on it, but I think it looked pretty good. For the mitering, I just did basic 45 degrees, started on the left side and worked my way around. Using a bunch of painter's tape and those little clamps. Got it done. You may have noticed that there's no stars on this flag. At this point in the build, we hadn't made up our mind if we wanted to paint them on, maybe buy wooden stars. I didn't know yet, so I just left it blank. I'll include some pictures at the end of the video to see what my buddy finally decided on. For a little more insurance on it, I wrapped my band clamp around it and let that sit for the night. And here it is, all done with a light sanding. Still not sure what I'm going to do about the stars, but I'll let my friend deal with that. I'm thinking maybe another run through with the torch. I don't know. It'll be up to my friend to decide, but I think it turned out pretty good. What do you think?